So we have, two for the price of one, two speakers. Both are co-founders of HAIF, H-A-I-F, Inc. The first one is Abhijit Ray. He's an MD, DM, FRCP patent holder and is globally recognized leader in cardiology and healthcare innovation. He will discuss the science and clinical applications behind HAIF's technology. And then we have Mr. Bharat Vijay. He's the CTO of HAIF with years of experience in AI development and health tech. Bharat will explain the technical infrastructure that powers the HAIF platform and its scalability for future applications. So welcome, gentlemen. The stage is yours. Who's going to
Yeah,
start?
yeah. I'll start, Dr. Oli. Abhijit is trying to join from New Delhi right now,
Okay.
so I'll get started, and then and I think first of all thank you to everyone for making time. This is Innovator MD has just been a wonderful forum for us. Tremendous mentorship, connect with a lot of people. And we also get to meet some great folks like Jay Goss. We miss
Yeah.
Jay this time. Eric, please pass the message to him. Um,
Well,
and we get to meet some great folks here. So today, I thought I'll take you through the presentation, since I think some of you may have seen it before, but I think I see a lot of folks that haven't we haven't interacted with in the past. So I'll take you guys through what HAIF's all about, what we've been doing, and we're really excited about the market. And and then Dr. Abhijit will be there to answer all the questions that I won't be able to answer. So so let me get started. Does that sound good? And
Sounds good.
okay, and Kevin's here too. Kevin's actually our CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. And so Kevin's going to actually take you through a little bit of our market strategy and some of the real life stories that we're just seeing on the ground as we've deployed our product. And it's been very interesting. So let me share my screen and get started. Yeah, so I have to start on a personal note. A very close relative of mine turned 40, um, and he suddenly started having major fatigue. And it took us about a year and 3 months to diagnose CHF in his case. And I was just determined that it shouldn't happen to anybody else. And it kind of creeps up on you because there's so many underlying conditions that lead to heart failure. So our what we wanted to do is to actually prevent is to kind of, can we figure this out upfront? Can we actually take cardiac care in a different direction by getting more and more prognostic about things? I mean, it's the world of AI. AI can predict and diagnose a lot of conditions today, but can it also be a great prognosis tool? So, that's really what we've succeeded in doing. And let me take you through that.
just a quick question. I'm sorry to disturb.
Yeah,
Noticed that it said an amber tag company on the first page.
yeah,
What is that referring to?
yeah. I'll come to that in the end.
Okay.
We have um, a a parent company that incubates in.
Okay.
And maybe I'll just share a little bit about my own background also while we're getting started. I was one of the early engineers at Yahoo and then at Amazon. So I had a chance to build the products that scale to hundreds of millions of users, and also had a chance to build the entire search engine with Amazon. And that's where did a lot of work on real-time data processing, introduced AI into the internet in the late 90s. So we've been playing with AI for a very long time. We'll and Amber Tag's like a company that incubates very innovative ideas, starting with in two major directions. One's been healthcare, and the other has been e-commerce and related areas.
Thank you.
So the thing about heart failure is, many don't even know about it. Most people confuse it with heart attacks and sudden cardiac arrest. And heart failure is in many ways like the one of the very, very big problems. 64 million people worldwide. And if you take lung cancer out of it, it's more deaths per year than almost all the other cancers put together. And we wanted to predict it. We can actually predict it within 90 days of a heart failure event occurring, which is progression to stage C, symptomatic heart failure. And we use standard EKG machines. So, today people do like a pro-BNP, an advanced blood test, or an echo, ultrasound echo. We do it with a standard EKG machine. Today, the US alone spends billions of dollars on dealing with heart failure. As you probably know, hospital readmissions, heart failure is one of the biggest culprits. 43% of heart failure patients are admitted up to 4 times a year, each visit costing between $10,000 and $15,000. So the US spends about $170 billion a year on heart failure. The challenge today is there's no way to predict it. It's detected. And detection also happens after ruling many, many, many things. And I want to share another anecdote. I'll come to that in the end. But even knowing everything and working in HAIF for such a long time, it's still very hard to detect it because it gets obscured by so many other conditions that happen. So why do we call it HAIF? If you look right on the top of the screen, there's an H and F, which is heart failure, and the ECG is the AI in the middle of it. So it's AI and heart failure. So we thought that's a good way to kind of express what we're trying to do. We know that HAIF also has a massive social impact. And so, we thought about that in our go-to-market strategy and in our pricing. We think that, the economic, impact for HAIF can come from many, many different segments. But it will have a massive social impact because in lower and middle income segments, the breadwinner actually loses their ability to work. How HAIF works is really simple. There's an app that is installed in the hospital's computer or on the phone. The ECG signal gets taken from, or the EKG gets taken from a 12-lead EKG. It's uploaded into the app. The app then sends the data to a server where all the algorithmic work is done. And within a few minutes, you get the result. So the entire complexity is actually reduced to a few minutes. This solution is very simple to administer, very simple to use. Even a semi-trained professional can actually administer the test. And all one needs to do is to pick up the EKG. It could even be a handheld device. We've tested with close to 40 devices. Our solution is actually a software. And we've tested with close to 40 devices, including handheld and 12-lead EKGs. We work with 6-lead EKGs. And we take the data, run it through our algorithm. We don't need any PII. We don't need the BMI. We don't need the person's gender or age. We've really solved a very hard problem, and I'll get to that in a moment. Before we go to the business model, I just want to talk about there's been close to 7.5 years of medical research that's been done to establish the heart failure signal. As many of you already know, heart failure has to do with the mechanical signal of the ventricular function, and that's not easily visible in the EKG. The electrical signal is visible, so people can detect arrhythmias, they can do a lot of other things, but the mechanical function, almost no cardiologist will say that they can actually see it on the EKG. So we had to do a tremendous amount of work, research, and longitudinal work to establish the accuracy of what we're doing, and we are able to now predict this. Once we realized that we had success in that area, we actually completed our clinical trial, 3 multi-center hospitals, and we had close to a 99% accuracy with our clinical trial. We then went on to patent it, and we've been awarded a full US patent for this innovation. Any questions so far? Okay. Yeah, Dr.
When
Abhijit
you say you use AI, are you using machine learning in a large training database, or is it some other AI method?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit of it, and then I'll also hand it over to Dr. Abhijit, who's joined us. So we do use AI in different parts of it, but it's not it's we had to create several new markers because the mechanical function was not commonly, the AI was not commonly done for that. We do a lot of signal processing and noise reduction using the AI, but maybe I'll let Dr. Abhijit also chime in here.
Yeah, so the basic formula which we use is a mathematical formula which converts the EKG into a mechanical function of the heart, and that gives you the actual pumping action. Whereas after that, we put in the other cardiac parameters like the BP, the heart rate, the NT-proBNP, and all. We use that to train the machine, and then from there on, we use the AI/ML model to predict the heart failure for the next 3 months.
So our business model is actually we're not looking to go door to door in our first wave. We're actually looking to partner with healthcare institutes and device manufacturers. So we're looking for networks of hospitals and intermediaries. So there are actually several companies that are currently doing screening in the US, and we're talking to them in the final stages of negotiation with them. We're looking at HMOs that both have the insurance as well as the cost of care. So big groups like Kaiser and others for whom this would be a very huge win by using digital preventive care. We are increasing our licensing cost. We're looking at about $15 a test, and we believe that the market is probably ready for even potentially even higher number. So we're right now talking to many healthcare institutes, and we also have doctors, international doctors, because we're getting ready to go for an FDA approval in the US, but we do have hospitals and doctors using the product internationally.
Just quickly from a workflow standpoint, or I should say an indication standpoint, at what point is the test, is it recommended that you provide the test?
Yeah.
Is it happening in a primary care office, a cardiology office?
Yeah. So, and I'll start here and Dr. Abhijit can chime in. So we believe the really underserved group in heart failure is the asymptomatic patients, because 77% of the time heart failure is detected in the emergency. I think Dr. Uli will have probably seen a very fair share of HF cases. And detection for such a chronic condition in the emergency is something that's really hard to process. So what we realize is that people are just going to so many other conclusions and just letting the heart failure, letting the underlying condition progress to heart failure, without even realizing that that's possible. So we want to essentially be available to the asymptomatic patient. So it could be as part of an annual physical, it could be with very mild symptoms, but we basically want to be available in the same way that tests like pre-diabetes are done for many different age groups across the board. And at the same time, we also want to be available in many different geographies, because heart failure, just in terms of impact, has a tremendous impact on pretty much all ethnicities. For example, among um, in the US, the CDC puts the average at 4 to 6%. But among, say, other groups like, say, Indians, it's more in the 8 to 10% range. Among communities like African Americans, it's in the 12 to 15% range. Among Native American communities, it is 20 to 30% incidence of heart failure. So there's a massive impact across the board, across the world. And so we want to be available to asymptomatic folks across the board. And we're looking to the primary care doctors. We're looking to, as part of screening, as part of physical checkups, and we're also looking to in the midterm integrate with EKG machines, so that this can be just made available to everybody that's getting an EKG done.
Yeah. No, that's great. Could you run the test retrospectively if you've
Yes.
saved? So you
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've built the technology now to digitize the EKG, and that's a hard problem.
Yeah.
But we've built the technology to do that, to take it off the graph paper and the PDF, and to actually be able to process that as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Dr. Abhijit, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, as you mentioned that this is most important as a screening technique, more like for a primary care, a general surgeon, as a pre-anesthetic checkup. This is where HAIF can give the maximum results. In a cardiologist's office, it might save some time as to which patient needs an echo and an NT-proBNP and who doesn't. But the cardiologist already has all the tools and the clinical acumen to diagnose a heart failure. So he might rely on those more than HAIF itself in the primary stages. But yeah, other departments, HAIF can definitely capture a lot of asymptomatic patients there.
Great.
Question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Vaish.
So since this is an AI-based model, is it evolving with the information that is being fed and living, or is it a final product already?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. So I just want to share a little bit about the team as well. This whole team is actually coming off a successful cardiac exit. The team built and sold a product that does three-dimensional electroanatomical mapping. So we actually built the technology to navigate a catheter inside the heart with a 1 millimeter precision to do cardiac ablations. So the entire team has gone through the FDA approval process and successfully obtained the FDA approval in the prior case. And the whole team is together, led by Dr. Amar Ray, who I'm going to mention his background in a moment. But just a little bit of background to answer your question. The product is the system is already productized, and the way the FDA looks at software as a medical device is it currently doesn't allow you to do an evolving algorithm. So you have to essentially take a snapshot of it, prove the accuracy of the snapshot, and then you're allowed to refine the snapshot on an ongoing basis, but you have to do trials and reviews of that. So we are very happy with our performance right now. It is upwards of 99%. We think in fact, it's significantly better. Even if you look at the true positive values, it's significantly better than almost any other cardiac test that's in the market today. So we are very happy with the performance of the algorithm now. So we're ready to take it to the market.
Thank you.
The TAM in the US is about 39.2 billion. This is the amount of monies that we can target as HAIF, and can be our potential revenues. And this is a mix of all the potential digital preventative work that is going on in towards CHF. So it includes screening, it includes the actual tests that happen in the hospitals, it includes all the precursory work that happens before the echo and things like echo and pro-BNP. And it is also part of annual physical tests as well. The other thing is that the number of heart failure cases are growing worldwide, almost 20%. And this may have to do with the increased amount of mental stress across the board, the increased amount of conditions like diabetes, and many of these are underlying causes of CHF. So we see this. US alone is 39.2. The international market is significantly bigger. Just wanted to start off with our go-to-market, since this was a question that folks are interested in. So initially, we are reaching out to the HMOs, to screening companies, and we are also talking to a few health insurers. But in our first wave, we really want to go to the networks because we're a small company and we want to really leverage our sales efforts. In the second wave, we will go to the much larger primary care provider networks. We plan to go to a lot of the lifestyle companies, and to the hospitals. But that will be when we're probably 10 times our current size. And the conversations we've been having with many of these folks has been very promising. And I just want to share some of the points in terms of our sales effort and the potential sales friction. So the typical conversations are, it starts off by saying, it's almost impossible for us to, see the mechanical signal in the EKG. And for that, we have published work that has been going on for more than 7 years. And so that typically brings the cardiologists on our side. So once they see the published work, they're actually ready to accept the product. Most cardiologists, as Dr. Abhijit pointed out, typically look at heart failure patients after the fact. So for them, they're already ready to go to a pro-BNP or an echo. So they are the next, once HAIF has detected it, then certain number of cases which are very high risk would go directly to the cardiologist. So they are ready to accept the cases from HAIF that are coming to them. In terms of the EKG manufacturers, there's tremendous interest because today a typical EKG machine sells for about $4,000 to $5,000, maybe $2,000 to $5,000. But an echo machine is like $100,000 to $140,000. So to have a machine that has HAIF as part of it allows the EKG manufacturers to sell at a significantly higher price. So we're looking at a combination of royalty and licensing fee with some of the EKG manufacturers. With the screening companies, the conversations we're having is they are looking at potentially charging up to $50 per test outside of insurance for a group of for a market that's in the 10 to 20 million annual range, and they're looking to charge for a heart failure screening that is potentially at that size. They prefer a prognostic to a diagnostic for obvious reasons, because the prognostic has it has a significant impact on the lifestyle. Whereas a diagnostic would say that you already have CHF, for which there could already be significant corroborating evidence. So we're having very strong conversations, and like I said, we're moving into the FDA application phase right now, but we've already had conversations with several of these players to understand what they will do once the product is ready.
Just a quick question,
Yeah,
specificity versus sensitivity.
yeah,
Often there's some trade-offs as you're tweaking your model.
yeah,
How are you leaning?
yeah. I will request Dr. Abhijit to answer that question.
Yes, so we have quite high sensitivity and specificity values. So we have a specificity of 99.9 and a sensitivity of 97.5.
Wow.
So yeah, we are quite high in both respects. So yeah, we can detect both the true positive and the true negative cases quite well.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Very nice. So is the recommended in case of a positive result, is this next step a referral to cardiology? You wouldn't direct any therapy of any kind, just
No,
test.
yeah, we don't give out any treatment protocols or something, but we do send the patient a list of conditions which might uh, give a positive outcome. So we have a list of 22 to 25 such symptoms, which conditions which can affect the result, and the patient can show it to the doctor, and the clinician can evaluate further according to it.
So arguably, the primary care doctor could say, "I've got this," and we can kind of work on a plan, to help that patient without needing a referral on, or they can say, "You know what, better you go to a cardiologist," but it's
Yeah,
there.
that is depending on the primary care's discretion. Yeah.
Right. Very good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just take a moment to share a quick slide on this. So just wanted to share the true positive ratios for where we stack up and where some of the other tests are stacking up right now.
Yeah, it's impressive.
And all of these are in the same space, so their relevance is very clear.
Very good. I don't know if you guys remember the T-wave Alternan craze from back in the early 2000s when we were evaluating EKGs to predict, risk of sudden cardiac death, and it was all the rage. We were all implementing the tech, and a lot of devices were placed because of T-wave Alternan results and the like. And then over time, we realized maybe we shouldn't be doing that, and we kind of went the other way. Do you feel like this is just a completely different ball game, and that cautionary tale is not relevant here?
Yeah, I don't think it will happen here because we are testing it quite well. We've also dipped into the Framingham heart study, and we tested it retrospectively on 20,800 patients. So I think we're good there.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
One of the questions in the chat, can you link this to a smartphone or smartwatches? That's the question.
Yeah.
Yes, the single lead ECGs, which from the handheld devices, smartwatches, digital stethoscopes, we can link it to them. But the best results we've seen are from the standard 12 EKGs.
Yeah, and of course the middle question is a relationship with like iRhythm or somebody that's got the patch, heart monitor.
Yeah.
and the like. It's not the 12 lead, but still some pretty rich data coming out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would be very good partners for us. I think we're definitely talking to people like that across the world. Actually, there's like tremendous innovation happening in that space.
We're evaluating a company called WearLink right now with a Q at the end. You should take a peek at them. Might be interesting. Hardware partner.
Thank you. Yeah,
Nice.
I think you touch upon a great point, Eric, because I think we're sitting in a sweet spot because we've done extensive research on the prognosis side. So this is just the first of many. So so this first one was for asymptomatic heart patients, and so it's the mouth of the funnel. Now, there are 64 million heart failure patients for which Dr. Abhijit just published our second prognostic. So we are able to, for the heart failure patients, look at certain complications that might happen and speed up, and hasten a bad condition for them. So he's just published a second prognostic that will then get productized. So we think we're sitting at a sweet spot where we continue to work on the prognosis based on this incredible IP that he has created, and we partner with all the device companies that are going to kind of look at different ways or different last mile needs, because some are in lifestyle, some are in some are in wellness, some are post stroke. Each has a different need, but they're all as one of our medical board folks put it, all roads lead to heart, all cardiac conditions lead to heart failure. Cancer leads to it. So it is one of those things where, we think that we can impact positively, but, there's also very strong economic advantage for us.
Agreed.
Okay, next question from Meng Juan is, at what stage did you file patent application? After proof of concept or prototype?
Yeah, so we filed it very early because we understand the the implications of patenting, when it should be patented. So we were awarded the patent in November of 2022. So it was in the very early stages.
Great. Please continue your presentation.
Just a quick update on the traction. We de-risked a lot before we incorporated the company. So we, as the person astutely asked, when did we file the patent? It was very early. So we made sure the patent was awarded. We finished our clinical trial. And then after all that was de-risked, we then incorporated the company in November of last year. We raised an angel round that was oversubscribed almost 50%. And we've got tremendous support. We have a very strong advisory group, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We've not actually been selling, but we already have multiple customers. We also have some revenues coming in from very interesting sources. We then, in terms of validation, Dr. Abhijit talked about the Framingham Heart Cohort. So it's over 21,000 patients that have been longitudinally tracked for the last 70 or so years. So we have done, longitudinal analysis, and we were actually able to verify our results against the the echo and pro-BNP blind. So we've got our 99+% accuracy includes the Framingham cohort as well. So we are looking for a huge return for our investors. Post funding, year one, we're looking at a pretty large revenue because we expect to sign large contracts with a few key players, and we're looking to over $120 million in year five. So in the first couple of years, the majority of our revenue will come from overseas because of the FDA and insurance codes in the US. and we've already opened the door to multiple geographies. In the US, we expect strategic partnerships in year one. So with potentially with an instrument manufacturer or medical device manufacturer, and with screening companies is what we expect in year one. And those should be large contracts. We'll get the smaller contracts from overseas. And then we expect to see tremendous growth in year two as we begin to really scale in the US. And from year three onwards, we're looking at scale in the international geographies. There is quite a lot of need in Europe and the Middle East, so we expect to tap into those markets. I want to share a little bit about the team. The CEO is Dr. Amar Ray. He has led this group to success in the previous cardiology company. He also we call him Steve Jobs Jr. Amar doesn't hold any punches, and he's 10 steps ahead of where most people are. So we're very lucky to have him at the helm. He also worked in the FDA for about a year, so he really understands how the ball is moved in that organization. And he worked in many execution projects where they had to execute at a stellar level. So just one notable example is the Boston Big Dig, where the leader was awarded the Nobel Prize. Amar was part of that core team. Um, he and Dr. Abhijit is, as Dr. Uli introduced, one of the youngest cardiologists. He is a fellow from Harvard and Johns Hopkins, got his degree from Edinburgh, his FRCP. I'm going to, share a pretty amazing news about Dr. Abhijit. He's been invited by Stanford to run part of their heart failure group. So he has, been brought on in a visa designation that's typically given to Nobel laureates. He's been nominated for the President's Award in India, and several awards from the European Society of Cardiology as well. So just wanted to share that piece of news about Dr. Abhijit. And I think my own background, I'm really here for the ride. Keeping the technology and scaling it. I had a chance to build the billing engine for AWS in its early days. So we do plan to use a similar approach as we scale the licensing for this product, which is why we think we're sitting in a real sweet spot and able to talk to many hardware players. We have a very unique way of talking to these hardware players and creating a billing system that has a very low friction. We're pretty aggressive in our sales and business development. We've Zach Selch runs our sales and business development, and Zach actually took many of the GE products to the worldwide market. So he really brings that strength, the global strength. And Kevin, who's on the call, and I'm going to ask Kevin to share a few words, because the marketing strategy is really important to us, because while we're selling B2B, there is at the B2C level, at the consumer level, people have to understand the impact of heart failure. It's very similar to people understanding why sleep apnea is a dangerous thing, why pre-diabetes is something that one should check for. So having a marketing strategy, reaching the message to the end consumer is a very important part of what we're doing. Kevin, would you like to share a little bit about that and just some of the personal stories that we've seen over the last year?
Yeah, that'd be great. Again, thank you so much for having us on this call. This is great. So what we wanted to do is when we came out of stealth mode, we wanted to actually go directly to the consumer. Developing the product, doing any clinical testing is great, but the acceptance and kind of the reaction from the consumer is really what we wanted to see. So what we did is we put together a series of health fairs. about 22 to 23 globally. And the health fair is exactly what it was. We set a table up. We put a sign. We had handheld EKGs, and people would come in. Someone make an appointment. Someone just stop in. We went through the process, explained what we were doing and what the results were. Very interesting. Bharat can share that. Being a technologist, telling people bad news is not something we're used to. So it was the first positive result of potential heart failure was shocking for me, and it was definitely hard to share with the consumers sitting down. But a couple stories, and I'm going to make them really brief. Is one, a woman sat down. We did the test. It came back positive. We ran it again, as we always do. We cleaned the leads. Ran it again. Came back positive. My throat's cracking. I said, I have to share with you that it did show up positive. She got a big smile on her face, and I said, and I started to stutter, and she goes, "You don't need to worry about that. I'm actually a physician at Stanford. I know my heart condition as it is, but I really wanted to test and see if this thing worked." And so that was a very interesting story as well. And then we've seen everything from triathlon individuals coming in, perfect shape. They do the test, it comes back positive, to people who have all the symptoms. And as Bharat shared at the beginning of the conversation, these symptoms, and a lot of people on the phone know this, but fatigue. I'm tired all the time. I walk upstairs, I'm out of breath. You go to the doctor, you really have to change your diet, Kevin. You need more sleep, less stress. Let's check for diabetes, these type of things. And we started hearing this pattern of, I have been tired and I haven't been sleeping well. And we even had one where an individual shared that every time she lay down at night, she got a pain in her shoulder. And she thought it was just from working out or, doing work around the house. And then, of course, she came up positive. So, this on the ground kind of bootstrap directly to the consumer approach was really interesting, because it also showed us that the interface on our app came up, and we refined that to make it cleaner. What people were really concerned about was, am I having a heart attack? That was a guaranteed question. And the answer is no, you're not having a heart attack. And so a lot of education between the difference between a heart attack and heart failure was needed. But again, everybody who was tested positive came back to us, to the booth, shook our hand and said thank you. And they were making appointments with their general physician. So I think that was really important, because doing clinical and building it in a bubble and doing the technology behind the door is great, but until you start actually using it on consumers and seeing the interaction, that was a big deal for us. And we've done, over 4,000, I would say, tests, in maybe even more than that, in the health fairs, and we're going to continue on with that. We've done them in the United States, and we've also done it internationally as well. And so we're gathering data along that. As Bharat talked about, our kind of go-to-market strategy and our marketing strategy at the beginning is we definitely want to get the opinion and the feedback from the consumer, and also the kind of pull through from the consumer, having the consumer ask the doctor, I would like to have these tests. We're also reaching out to the medical professionals, and then also, as Bharat shared, the healthcare and device manufacturers. So we're looking at all three. With Zach, we're working hand in hand with Zach on campaigns to get that initial conversation with handheld device manufacturers, insurance companies, and large healthcare providers, just to, again, broach the initial conversation, and then we take it into phase 2. So, but I do appreciate this, and Bharat, I'm going to send it back to you.
Kevin, I'm going to interrupt just for a
Yes.
second.
Oh, please.
Although it's a niche space, you mentioned your triathlete that came back
Yes.
positive. One of my former colleagues was one of the world's experts in athletic heart syndrome, where athletes often are missed when they do have heart failure because their hearts naturally get bigger because they're in such good shape. So people assume that's why the walls maybe look a little bit thicker, but actually they do have heart failure that goes undiagnosed. your test's pretty interesting, actually, in the sports world, both professional, collegiate, and beyond. Again, it's a niche space, but a pretty unique use case for what you're doing.
Absolutely. We discussed that. And you know what I found interesting is when we do these health fairs, the individual that smokes, that's overweight, older, is always afraid to take the test, where this individual, of course, he's in great shape. He goes, I'd love to do it. And he's the one who came back positive. And it was one of those where he had that look on his face, and I'm sure you've seen it more than I have, but it was that look of how can it happen to me? And that was it was very informative and eye-opening that it doesn't just fit a category. It's not, you're overweight, you smoke, you eat bad, you don't exercise. Oh, you're going to get heart failure. It can really target anybody. And like you said, in the athletic space, and something Zach brought up on our early kind of brainstorming session is, do we look at gyms and do we look at sports teams, that type of thing? So that is definitely, we called it the same thing, a niche. But when you start talking about the number of people who do triathlons or the number of collegiate athletes, professional athletes, I don't think it's as niche as we really think it is. So that's definitely something we want to look at.
No, it's a great opportunity. There are so many that we could probably talk about here. Life insurance, not that any of us want that to be incorporated into the test, but they're doing the EKG anyway as part of your assessment. They add this as an element, and they've got one more factor for their actuaries to, quantify against.
Are you sure you weren't looking at our whiteboard? Because we talked about health insurance, we talked about life insurance, we talked about, I mean, there's so many of them that, but when you start and I guess it's a good problem, a bad problem to have, because when you start whiteboarding this out, you look at all the opportunities and the markets you can go after, and you really have to start narrowing them down to, how quick the contract can get signed, and is this a long sale, and what type of acceptance and approval process is needed? Our first glance at it was we were going to stay away from health life insurance, just because it just didn't seem right.
Yeah, I hear that.
But on the flip side, if you continue and stick with the model that we put together, and what I share with everybody at health fairs, getting a positive is not bad. This is a good news test, and that's what we tell people.
It's like blood work. If you do it early, you pick it up early, you've got a great life ahead of you. If you don't,
it's not that good.
Scary stuff when it does get diagnosed. And look, you guys, your job right now, validate. I mean, first and foremost, obviously you've got a regulatory pathway that you're going to head down, but those boxes get checked. A lot of white space for you. So very exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, Eric, that's a great point. So we've launched in India, and we have a few hospitals that have already picked it up. I think notable one is a hospital called Zymus that was voted the top emerging hospital of 2024. So what they're doing is, because India doesn't have an FDA regime, so each hospital gives us anywhere from 50 to 500 cases. And they say, we're going to evaluate you guys. So 5 hospitals have finished their evaluation and have gone into actual product use. And the largest pharma company in India, a group called Cipla, has just started their pilot launch with us in 4 of the biggest metros. So we're basically going through the validation phase with in non-FDA regimes already, and we're beginning to book revenues. In fact, one of the top hospitals that gives the highest cardiac care free, they actually pick the top solutions, but they offer it free to lower income segments. They chose us. And we had impact group come forward and pick up $250,000 worth of licensing for 2 years of the HAIF product for the hospital. So we got revenue from a very interesting source, and we're just putting it out there. People are doing their validations and then just picking it up, exactly like you said.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Very nice.
And so just another very small thing, we've had we have a very strong advisory board. Maybe I'll just take a moment to take you through some of the folks in the team. So on the right side is Shankar Mahadevan. They won the Grammy Award this year, 2024. So he has more than maybe close to 1.5 billion followers right now, and he has had 4 stents and is always on a risk for CHF. So we get his EKG every month, and we're just doing the advance warning for him, and he's basically taking this message out. We have a couple of key folks in the team. We're very, very happy to say that we just signed Marshall Perry, who's the chairman and the head of the Tunica Biloxi tribe, with connections to almost 800 Native American tribes in the US, as our chief strategist. So Marshall just came on board yesterday, and we're really happy to have him, because this will really open the door for us to impact the Native American and African American segments in the US, and we're really looking to do that. And Ravi Maladi was the CTO for GE in Asia. So he's opening up the door to GE, Philips, Schiller, and the device manufacturers for us. So and we have another set of advisors who we've not shown here, but a very strong group overall. We also have a medical advisory board that consists of doctors at all ends of the group. Actually, that's Dr. Uli. I'm sorry for the typo. But we have Dr. Nat Pandian, who actually was a professor of cardiology, and we have Dr. Shiv, who's a practicing cardiologist. We have a radio cardiologist who's the one who does the ultrasounds, and Dr. Abhijit himself, who's going to be with Stanford in the next couple of weeks. In terms of where we are right now, we completed our clinical trial. We've been awarded our patent. Our publication's already published in the European Society of Cardiology, and it's been accepted to the New England Journal of Medicine, which is like heavily backlogged right now. We completed post-clinical validation. We've also been very aggressive on compliance. We got ISO 27001, which is data security, 27701, which is privacy. We completed HIPAA, and we're underway through the FDA process. We are raising a seed round, and like I mentioned, we already have $250K in guaranteed revenues from impact groups. The seed round is we've already got about close to $1 million that is committed towards a seed round. We have lead VCs that have expressed interest, and we are talking to a few big and small investors right now to find the right partners for us.
What's the total raise you're looking for? Oh, there it is.
We're looking at a $6 million raise.
All right, there it is. And there is not a lead yet, so the valuation, I imagine, is not yet set, or is it? Yes.
So we're waiting. We're waiting for leads to come in, but in the meantime, we are, for people that want to come in, we've talked to the potential leads who have agreed to give a discount to people who are coming in before they come in. So we are offering that
on a safe convertible of some kind.
Yeah, it's a convertible. Yeah.
Okay.
So
can you share what the cap and discount is on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can send you a note on that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's my first time joining this group, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to ask and what I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Please go ahead. Every question's free, fair game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All the questions we want. That's why it's a deep dive.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I would also like to understand the deal terms for the convertible note.
Yeah. It's a 20% discount over the lead round, and there's a certain opportunistic aspect to it that we're also looking at. We believe that because we've actually got the FDA for a very complex Class 2 medical device in the last couple of years in record time, We feel we may have an advantage because of that. And Amar, having worked in the FDA at the FDA office for almost a year, we think we have an advantage there. And the moment the FDA approval comes through, it really opens up our value, if you will. And so we're looking to really be very fast and opportunistic on that front. And we're having all the conversations with potential customers, and asking them, what it would mean once we come back to them with the FDA approval.
Can you show a timeline? And is this a de novo or is it you have a
So
predicate?
we've been talking to the FDA. So that's one thing we learned is, you don't just throw the application over the wall and
Right.
then wait for them to. So we've been actually engaging with them. We could go de novo, but we are waiting for them to potentially, give us a hint that it could be a de novo.
Have you had a formal pre-sub?
Not yet.
I have a
It's
question.
been informal right now.
Would you please elaborate more on the type of partnership that you are looking for? And also, what do you consider would be the closest product to yours?
What was the second part of the question?
What would you consider to be the closest product to yours?
The closest partnership?
No, the closest, not competitive.
Competition.
The closest competition? Yeah. So there are actually many AI solutions that check for heart failure, that detect heart failure from the echo. So there's radiology solutions that detect heart failure from the echo, and there are solutions that detect it from a CT scan and an MRI, which we feel some of them are even quite far advanced in terms of getting FDA approval. But we feel all those will not change the process as it stands, because people still have to do a fairly intrusive process like an MRI or a CT in order to get that done. The second thing is almost all the solutions that are there right now detect CHF. So typically they detect that the person is in stage C of congestive heart failure. By which time it's pretty hard to reverse it. You're actually dealing with a condition that's very hard to reverse. Ours is the first prognostic. So we feel that from that point of view, the competition hasn't yet come into the market, but we will be competing for mind share with the other technologies that detect it. So the other thing is we are the first one that goes off the EKG, so we are a lot less intrusive in terms of our solution than the ones that go off the echo or the ultrasound.
Thank you. So if you could elaborate on the type of partnership that you are looking for, I would appreciate that too.
Yeah. So the partnerships we are looking for is there are intermediaries that already have access to a big market. So the US has 20 large screening companies, for example, and many, many smaller ones that do health-based screening. So they do they do blood tests, and they may do abdominal ultrasounds, and they may do tests like that. And so they typically screen anywhere from 1 to 3 million people a year. So that's actually a great partnership for us to be one of the the set of tests that they offer to consumers, because it's digital, it's preventive health, and there is a market for it. That would be like a partnership. The second partnership would be with a GE or a Philips or a Schiller or a Siemens that are actually selling, and many of the smaller EKG companies, a smaller one, we are talking to the smaller ones as well. And similarly, handheld EKG companies like fourth frontier or cardia, or like Eric mentioned, and iRhythm would be very interesting for us. So these intermediary companies already have a base. They can leverage our 7 years of research into CHF and potentially upsell the product and at the same time, um, have an immediate market for us. I think those would be the initial partnerships. We're not close to inbound partnerships from hospitals and doctors, but we're not actually going outbound in a big way to get that right now.
There are a couple of questions in the chat. Krish was mentioning about Smart Heart Pro. It's a FDA-approved 12-lead derived
Yeah.
EKG device. So that's for diagnosis, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also Echo Health, they have a stethoscope that can do
Yeah.
something similar. So my question was, why de novo? There may be a 510(k) easier approach. Is there a specific reason to go de novo?
No, we are not going de novo. We're actually going 510(k) actually. So we are in the conversations with the FDA. If they indicate de novo, then we'll consider it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And is
And
there a way
then
to view this demo on site at your company by any chance?
Yeah, I can I can share a video. It's very straightforward. Actually, what we do is the entire complexity of the product. Having worked at Yahoo and Amazon, one thing we realize is that the whole thing has to be really simple. So we took the entire complexity and we did a lot of studies with doctors, with people, with consumers, and we realized that coming out with a traffic light display is the easiest way to do it. So we have no heart failure present, risk of heart failure, which means go see a primary care doctor, or high risk of heart failure, which is go see a cardiologist. So we're actually able to detect that the person has CHF right now. We're able to detect it right off the EKG, but we don't want to be a diagnostic test in the short term. So we're going to take the approach of saying that, it's a high risk, see a cardiologist.
So would your solution take a PDF of 12 lead?
Yes.
So
We
that
can
is
take a
something
PDF.
right.
Yes, we can take a PDF. We can even go, once we integrate with the EHR systems, we can go, retrospectively and look at all the PDFs they have there, and then pull those out and actually scan for risk for patients.
Yeah,
So
let me
that's a
know if
market.
let me know if that Smart Heart Pro interests you, because I have a device that we use at a free clinic, and
Okay.
I can bring it in and you can use a PDF of one of the test patients, a test patient.
Oh, that would be fabulous. We are constantly testing against and something like a Smart Heart Pro. Those are the kinds of relationships we are pursuing, where they already have a market, and they need a CHF solution.
Thank you.
Krish, is there a way I can get everyone's contact information?
Yeah,
we can
send
get
it to
that
you.
for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Vaish asks, clinical trials in the US for indications like cancer that involve heart health monitoring as one of the endpoints could potentially be an option to help with the FDA approval.
Yeah, absolutely. I think these are actually great ideas. So one of the things we realized when we built our mapping system is the FDA is uh, quite partial to systems that have already been tested in, either in the US or internationally. US, of course, you can't do it without an FDA approval. So so we actually did human trials, for example, in Lithuania, and that really sped the way for our FDA approval. And in this case, we've done, thousands of human cases and longitudinal studies outside the US, and we're bringing all that data in for our FDA approval.
If I may
Great.
add.
Go ahead.
So some of the diagnostic tools. So it's a catch-22. You need data for approval, but then to generate the data, you have to do testing. So there can be a possibility under especially oncology studies because the risk of not getting is not going to affect the outcome because the patients already have something that can be detrimental to them. So those trials in those incorporating nuances in them is much easier, and that would help in the generating the data that would FDA is looking for. That was just a suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually a great that's it's actually I don't want to say it this way, but it's actually a separate market in itself because a lot of cancers, the actual eventual cause of death is heart failure, and sometimes doctors have told me that if they had a little more time from CHF, they could have fought off the cancer. In some cases, of course, they say the patient suffered so much, the didn't want to prolong life, but that's not for me to decide. That's for them and their family. But in many cases, they have said if they had a little more time, CHF and renal failure, they kind of go hand in hand in an oncology situation, and that could be a whole separate focus area for us, actually.
Okay, I would like to connect. So thank you, Uli sir,
Right.
for the and the information later. Thank you.
Good point. Good points. Any other questions for the team? Eric, I thought you had one.
Oh, I could keep you all night. I will save that for a follow-on diligence session.
I can see the questions, circling in your brain.
Yeah, no, I've decided I'm going to behave. So, but it's very exciting, and I do look forward to the follow-up. So, yeah, excellent work.
Thanks, Eric. Really appreciate it.
All right, Tom, any questions?
Again, I've got a lot more questions, but I'll save it, and I have some of my colleagues are cardiologists, so I'll pull them in to get their
Oh,
expert
perfect.
opinion.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
Tom, you and I, we can collude, and then we'll get them in the next session.
We love to work with other investor groups and share information, so happy to do that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Great.
Yeah. So Eric and Tom, is it okay if I reach out to you
Please.
separately
yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Or together.
Yeah, together. Yeah. I mean, after this call. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other last words, Bharat?
I think
Team.
at the core of this, there's a chance to save millions of lives. I mean, save is too presumptuous. I think, but I just want to end on a very, very personal note. So I was in India for the last 2 weeks, and my father had a low RBC count for about 6 months, and we couldn't figure out why. The RBC was low. He was constantly anemic, did everything. He's 82. And even being in HAIF, we just tested everything. He had a infection which took 2 weeks. The fever just didn't subside. And at the end of all that, I said, what the heck? Let's just take a EKG and run it through HAIF. And we came back with EF of 45. And suddenly, light bulbs flashed, and talked to doctors, and they said, yes, this can cause the RBC count to be lower, and it can cause this long-term anemia. It can cause the immunity. And I was like, damn, I didn't want to use this in this case, and it just got so much more personal for me. They did an echo, and the echo came back at 40. So the echo is a 2D echo, right? It's a 2D echo. And we have actually calibrated HAIF against 3D CMR, and we know we're much more accurate than the 2D echo. We're able to estimate the three-dimensional EF much better than the 2D echo can.
Well, don't forget
And
that the 2D echo report is based on a physician deciding what they think the numbers should be.
Exactly.
That could be all over the
More
place,
subjective.
depending on the reader. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So I saw it was 40, and my, family by that time had found out, and they were really, down. And I said, look, I don't think it's that. I think you're still you're still in the 45 range, and I'm confident about the product. So sure enough, they did a second 2D echo 2 days later, and they found it was 49. And so yes, he's in early stages, and we've caught him at the right time. And but it is it was a tough thing to swallow, but I was grateful to have this kind of awareness. So there was something we could do about it.
Right. Thank you very much.